Here I go, tromping through the snow, guys. It's Jen, not a real farm. Just going to check on the greenhouse to see how it's doing. Whew. We are just continuously getting hammered with snow here. So I'm just gonna go in and see what the temperature is inside the greenhouse today. Okay guys, so it is 9.7 degrees Celsius. I don't have my conversion chart here with me, but we had a super hard frost last night. So I'm just gonna show you what happened to the pepper plants in here. So you can see they have taken a hard frost. I'm just gonna move over here. And they are done. They're droopy. They're not happy. So these guys are done. So now I can pull these out, take off whatever remaining peppers that I have here off of those, and they're done. It didn't take long, right? So we're pretty much almost at the end of November. What's today, the 20th? Yeah, so that's pretty good. The end of November in zone 3 for growing food, that's pretty good. The eggplants have had it. They are done. And then we have our beans that are still down here. Now, oddly enough, I think because the beans are so low, they didn't really get impacted too much by the cold. So we're gonna leave them and see what happens. The tomato, my hybrids are done. These guys are finished. As you can see, everything's all droopy and done. Of course, I have to pick off whatever green tomatoes are left if they're still viable. They may be viable, but that's okay. I had so many tomatoes this year. I won't cry if it's a loss. And then we have just the bin that I had my peanuts and everything in. So the only thing pretty much that's left alive in here is the horseradish, because that is a very hardy plant. But everything else, the white tomatoes have taken a hit. They're down. The little I think this is a green pepper plant that I had here. That's taken a hit. That's done. And the cayenne peppers, those are done. So we're going to be taking whatever cayenne peppers I have off. Oh, and I'm just going to pop on over to the ice is falling off the roof here. The Swiss chard patch has finally bit the dust. Now, the reason why we're back at the Swiss chard patch is I did have a couple of emails the other day that did talk about aphid infestation, and very valid points were brought forward that normally in situations, aphids will lay eggs underneath your soil and they will sort of emerge back in the spring. But in zone 3, and even in this greenhouse, because it's not heated, will eventually be in the minus 40s in the winter. So in the crux of the winter, January, February, that type of thing, these guys here do not survive. So I was coming up to point out, when I tried to get the camera a little bit closer, was that the aphids were actually molting. So we have adult aphids here. I can see that some of them are dead, some of them are alive. But I was trying to point out, I think I have some here, is the molting process. I'm just going to see if I can get closer. So the molting process with these types of aphids, they'll go through this molting process where they shed their skins about 4 times. And you can see sort of all the adults on the back here. Let's even see if they're moving. I'm just curious. Yeah, they're all falling. Well, there's a couple that are still alive, but it's not really that cold in here right now, so they're still going to make it till about, I'm going to say January, but they won't make it that long because I'm going to pick this out. But they'll go through this molting process about 4 times before they turn into adult aphids. And so what this white stuff is here, if you can see that through my camera, is it's exoskeletons, where they shed all of their exoskeletons because they're now becoming adults. And they'll go through that because they're born live, they'll actually shed their skins 4 times before they become an adult. So these are exoskeletons that I was actually pointing out. And there's an explanation of that, of course, in the Jadam books when you get them. And pretty much, guys, all you can do at this point to control the infestation, as everybody knows that watches this channel, is to just get rid of it. These guys, like I said, in zone 3, usually are temperature tolerant in certain zones. Zone 5 for sure. But I've moved to zone 3, and I can tell you as of last year, what happens in January is all these guys die. They become aphid sickles. They do have a freeze-resistant tolerance, if you want to call it that, but not after about minus 20 degrees Celsius. So if you want to do the conversion of that into Fahrenheit, I don't have that offhand, but after about minus 20 degrees Celsius, they tend to actually die. So they can live up to 2 or 3 months. It is a possibility, but now that we're getting into the coldest part of the season, December coming up, December, January, February, these guys will be toast. So here's a lot of the exoskeletons here. And you can see that they've molted, it looks like lots of time. So, you know, I've got a lot of adult aphids in here that I'm not going to panic about. I'm not worried about it. Just going to take them out and get rid of it. And guys, you know, aphids are actually really easy to kill. As you know, a lot of you probably have had them before. You just basically take some watered down soap and you spray them and they're dead. So just wanted to point that out, that we are getting rid of this, and now they've taken this big frost hit. We've got to get rid of this out of here anyway. So just wanted to kind of give you an update as to what's happening in the greenhouse. Let's take a look over here. Yeah, Mexican pepper plants have bit the dust. You can see how droopy everything is. These guys are done. It got majorly frosty in here last night. This is done. And like I said, my cayenne peppers, well, this guy's actually still hanging in there, but a lot of this has got to come out because it got frostbitten. So, guys, let's see what else is going on. Of course, my patch over here of tomatoes, the ones on the ground, you can see they've taken a little bit of a hit. We've got to get rid of the ones up here, pull those out because those are done. So that's what a hard frost does regardless. Now, it's 10 degrees in here, but everything is pretty much done. But that doesn't mean that my growing stops. It just means I keep planting. And I'll be showing you some of the things that I do over the winter before I start replanting again in the greenhouse. Interestingly enough, check this out. The blackberry plants are fine. They haven't frozen. They're not drooping. They love it in here. They have not been affected by the frost at all, which is great, because these Primark blackberries are not meant for this climate at all. Now, I'm not saying in January they might not die, but we're going to experiment with it. The only way we're going to learn things is if we experiment and see how far we can take this, right? So these guys have done fine. We're going to leave them as is. I'm just going to keep basically stringing them up the wall here. They can get pretty tall, and then I'm going to tip them and see if I can bush them out along the wall here. Plus, it'll help with shade because, as you know, this greenhouse actually gets pretty hot in the summertime. So potatoes are toast. And over here is my broccoli, which seems to be thriving. Broccoli is still thriving. I'm just waiting for it to give me a little bit of, couple of little spears I'll get out of it before we get a really, really hard frost. But yeah, the broccoli is doing amazing. I still have some onions too I can use, but I wanted to show you this. Over by the beans, I still have lettuce. My lettuce is doing fine. My little beets that I have, those started sprouting and they're doing fine. And funny enough, this isn't frozen yet, but this is basil. All of these little plants that I have here are basil. So I'm still actually getting herbs growing in this cold. So that's okay. Even the cilantro over here is actually doing okay. So I've got little bits and pieces of lettuce. So we can use some of that on burgers or whatever. If it keeps growing, that's great. The little tomatoes that I had growing next to it are done. So those are finished. But the onions and everything else in here so far are happy. So we're going to leave it. And I think I even have a couple of full-size beans over there. Now, they're not happy because it was cold in here, but they have not been frostbitten yet. I can tell by the leaves. So we'll leave them and see what happens. So guys, just wanted to give you an update that I've taken a hard freeze in the greenhouse. That does not stop the growing for me. It actually only makes me want to plant more things. And yes, I'm going to be planting in here. I'll show you what that is later. But thanks so much for joining me today, guys. If you like the video and you like to see the progress of the greenhouse, give me a thumbs up. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you back here soon.